Imagine you are a college student in August 1971. You answer an ad in the newspaper offering $15 a day. To participate in a psychological study, you go to Stanford University. You are assessed as mentally healthy, and you are randomly assigned to one of two groups. You are told you are a prisoner, or you are told you are a guard. The assignment was a coin flip. It determined everything that followed. What happened in the basement of Stanford's psychology building over the next 6 days became one of the most famous and most contested experiments in the history of science. It changed how the world understood power, obedience, and what ordinary people are capable of when given authority over others. Or that is what we were told. The Stanford prison experiment was designed by psychologist Philip Zimbardo to investigate how social roles shape behavior. The hypothesis was simple. Do people adapt their conduct to fit the role they are assigned, regardless of their own values? To test it, Zimbardo converted the basement of the Stanford psychology building into a mock prison. Cells, solitary confinement, a guard station, the whole institutional architecture of incarceration, reproduced in miniature. The 24 participants were all students, all assessed as psychologically stable, all randomly assigned. 12 became prisoners. 12 became guards. The study was supposed to run for 2 weeks. Within 36 hours, a prisoner broke down. He began screaming. He was removed from the experiment. By day 2, some guards were conducting roll calls in the middle of the night, not because anyone told them to, but because they had found it was a way to disrupt, to exhaust, to control. They were making prisoners do push-ups on the floor of their cells. They were confiscating mattresses. They were putting prisoners in solitary. The prisoners, for their part, had begun to act like prisoners. Passive, broken. Some were developing symptoms that looked genuinely psychological. Anxiety, depression, an inability to distinguish the experiment from reality. By day 5, Zimbardo's girlfriend, a psychologist named Christina Maslach, who had come to interview the participants, was horrified by what she saw. She told Zimbardo to stop. She told him it had gone too far. Zimbardo ended the study on day 6. The narrative that followed became textbook. Literally. The Stanford prison experiment entered virtually every introductory psychology course on the planet. It was cited in discussions about Abu Ghraib. It was cited in corporate leadership training. It became the foundational evidence for the situationist argument, the idea that it is circumstances, not character, that produces cruelty. That any one of us, given the uniform and the authority, would become a monster. But here's what the textbooks left out. In 2018, a researcher named Ben Blum published an article based on previously unheard recordings and interviews with the original participants. What he found was deeply uncomfortable. The guards had been coached, not just encouraged, explicitly instructed. Zimbardo's research assistant, David Jaffe, had told the guards before the study began that they needed to be tough, that they should model themselves on the guards in the film Cool Hand Luke. The cruelty that made the study famous was not spontaneous. It was, at least in part, performed. The recordings also revealed something else. Several guards had not been cruel at all. Some had been actively kind to the prisoners, giving them extra food, speaking to them gently, refusing to participate in degradation. These guards are almost never mentioned when the Stanford study is discussed, because they disprove the central thesis. One of the prisoners, a man named Douglas Corpy, later said that his breakdown on day 2 had been deliberate. He had been faking distress because he wanted to leave and study for his exams. He said Zimbardo had initially refused to release him, insisting the experiment was real. Zimbardo has disputed this account. The recordings are ambiguous, but the claim has never been definitively refuted. The broader scientific critique is significant. Replication studies, attempts by other researchers to reproduce the experiment's findings, have not produced the same results. When participants are not coached, when conditions are truly controlled, guards do not reliably become cruel. The descent into authoritarianism appears to require a nudge. And yet the experiment's grip on the public imagination remains total. It is still cited, still taught, still held up as evidence of something fundamental about human nature. Perhaps the most unsettling conclusion is not about cruelty at all. It is about narrative, a flawed study, with coached participants and methodological holes, shaped how millions of people understand themselves and each other. It changed policy. It changed law. It changed the way we think about who we are under pressure. An experiment that may never have shown what it claimed to show ended up reshaping reality anyway. And maybe that tells us something more troubling than anything that happened in that basement.